All right, Donna, it's good to talk to you today. And of course, we're very thankful. And I know that you are feeling blessed that you got out of that situation okay. Tell us, what were you doing out in Las Vegas? Was it a vacation? And who was with you?
I was actually with my niece. It was her first time to go to Vegas, and we went for the 3-day Route 91 Harvest Festival, the big country music festival that they have out there.
All right. I guess, where were you located as far as in connection with the stage?
We were in the very right, on the front side of if you were looking at the stage, we were on the right side of the stage,
All right.
in the very front
In the
corner, so to speak.
so you were pretty close to the stage.
We were.
All right. I guess it was just a normal country concert. When it first started happening, what did you hear?
So we were, he had come down there on the stage. There was like a catwalk type thing that came out in between the two sections of the crowd. There was like a left side and a right side. And he had come down in that catwalk section. So we were facing that with the stage to our right. And earlier in the day, there had been some people behind us that had been just being kind of silly, popping off like confetti guns or something of the sort. So it made a noise, and then confetti went everywhere. So later on in the evening, I heard 3 pops, and I looked at my niece and I said, seriously, why are people so childish? Because I thought they were shooting fireworks.
Uh-huh.
And then within just a matter of seconds after I heard those 3 pops, there was a gentleman, a couple people over, who started screaming frantically, help, 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 she's been shot. And it took me a minute to register really what he was saying. And I looked at my niece and I said, did he say she's been shot? And about that time, we just heard the continuous gunfire, just hundreds and hundreds of shots. So that's when we fell down to the ground, just trying to take cover and not, telling her to cover her head and chest the best that she could, and trying to stay out of the line. We didn't know at that point where it was coming from or anything. It was just trying to cover ourselves the best we could.
All right. And I guess, how quickly after people start to realize what went on that the entertainers, performers on stage realized and the music stopped?
It was actually a little bit before they realized, because I remember being down on the ground and I could still hear the music, and I was looking through the fence wondering why they were still playing. Did they not realize what was going on? So probably, if I had to guess, I would say 20 to 30, maybe 20 seconds went by. And then I could see his band members start to kind of back up, and he was still performing. And then they faded back into the dark, and then all of a sudden he just dropped his guitar and he ran.
Right. Well, once you realized what was going on and you and your niece got down to the ground, how long were you in that position, and how long did the gunfire seem to last?
Well, it felt like an eternity,
Yeah.
but it after going back and watching, my niece actually was filming him at the time that the shooting started, so she got it all on video, every bit of it. Um, I felt like I had only laid on the ground through 2 rounds of the shots when I decided I was just going to make a run for it. When I go back and I watch the video that she recorded, we actually laid on the ground for 7 or 8 rounds of shots. And then I remember laying there thinking, like, anticipating, when is it going to hurt? When is it going to hurt? Because I just knew in my head that I was going to get shot. There were so many rounds that were going off. I just had already made myself come to grips with the fact that it was going to happen. And so I lay there anticipating, and then I started thinking about my kids at home, and I thought, this can't happen to my kids. I have to fight for them, if nothing else. And so I looked at my niece and I said, the next little lull in between shots, we're going for it. And she said, okay. And so the next lull that there was after, I guess he was reloading, I jumped over the fence and ran underneath the stage.
And how long were you underneath the stage?
Well, Well, as soon as I got under the stage, more shots started coming, and I could hear them hitting the stage and ricocheting everywhere.
Wow.
And so I just kept running under the stage. I was climbing over and under all of the metal support beams that there were under there and doing my best in the dark, because obviously it was completely dark under there. I couldn't really see anything. I was just doing my best to feel my way the opposite direction from where it sounded like all of the shots were coming from. And I ran out the left side of the stage.
All right. And your niece was with you?
No, at that point, because when I jumped over, I thought she was coming with me.
Mm-hmm.
There were a bunch of other people who were jumping, so she wasn't able to get over when shots started again. So she actually dropped back down to the ground and laid there for that last round of shots. And then once it paused again, she was able to jump over and come up under the stage.
All right. Now, after that, of course, I guess there was no way of knowing whether it was really over or not, but what did you do after that, after it seemed like the shots quit?
So after I went under the stage, I came out, and it was like a big open space again, and I was afraid shots were going to start again, so I ran around to the left. There was a bus trailer, I'm assuming where they carry their band equipment or whatever in. So I ran behind that, and I remember there was a couple, a husband and wife there, who were crouched down behind it. And I just got down, laid flat down on my stomach and covered my head. And then once the shots finally stopped, he jumped up and he grabbed his wife and he grabbed me by the arm and he said, "Let's go." And so we just took off running together to the outside fence of the venue. And I remember seeing someone had taken a part of like a metal fence for crowd control, to basically form a line, I guess, to get into the venue. In the beginning is what it looked like. Someone had taken a part of that fence and turned it sideways and leaned it up against the taller fence to use as a ladder to get over. So my first thought was climb that and get over. But as soon as I went to go for that, there was a security guard by a gate, and he was like yelling, "Come this way, come this way." So we ran that way, and he had opened up the gate and was letting people out. And he's just yelling, "Run, run, run." So we were just running for our lives through this open field, so to speak. It was just grass and gravel and dirt. There were people everywhere, people all over the ground, shot and covered in blood, and people that were running that were wounded that didn't even know they had been shot.
Well, it's hard to imagine that, what that was like. What were you thinking when you were running like that?
Just to put as much distance between myself and where I thought the shots were coming from as I possibly could.
And where did you eventually go to when you ended in safety and were able to quit running?
Well, there was a point when I ran through that field, and I remember seeing them working on a lady, not paramedics, but just citizens that were there, and they were working on a lady, and I got to a street, and I was looking for a building to get behind, and there was a police officer, and he was yelling, "Run to Hooters, run to Hooters." I guess at that point they had already decided they were setting up Hooters as like a safe zone for everybody to get to and get inside of. And it was the one location that was close, that was tall enough that you could identify from far away. So I just started running in that general direction. And then as I was running up the street, I looked over to my left, and that's when there was a police car with SWAT members and stuff, and there was an officer down on the ground who was just covered in blood. And then I kept running, and I know there was at one point I couldn't find my niece, and I turned around. I was going to go back to try to find her, and there was this lady running behind me, and she had blood just pouring out of her leg. And I said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just go, run, run, run." And I'm like, "Ma'am, you've been shot." She didn't even know she had been shot. She had a huge gaping wound in the front of her leg. So I helped her get to the police so they could get her help. And then there was a point right after that, another couple grabbed me because they saw that I was alone. They grabbed me and they were like, "Come with us, just come with us." And she told me, "My husband's a police officer. Just come with us. He knows what to do." And then so we all three ran together into actually an employee entrance of Hooters. And once we got into that entrance, it was just a big hallway with locker rooms for the employees. And there was 4 different people in there that had been shot, and there were people tending to their injuries. There were, off-duty paramedics and nurses and things like that that were helping to take care of those injuries. So I initially ended up in Hooters Hotel and Casino.
All right. And how did you eventually get reunited with your niece?
Once I got on the street and was able to put some distance between myself and where I thought everything was coming from, and I had some buildings in between me, I called her, and she, thank God, answered her cell phone, and I told her she was on the street over from me running, and I said, just come to Hooters. That's where they told us to go. I'll meet you there. And so we got off the phone because I only had like 5% battery, and she only had like 3. Our phones were almost dead. So I told her, I said, I'm going to hang up. Just keep any building, any car, anything you can between you and that area. And once you get to Hooters, call me and we'll, figure out where each other are. She ended up coming in the front door of Hooters. I went in the back. So she called me once she got there, and I told her to come into the bar area because that was the space that I had found my way to.
Absolutely amazing that, in looking back on it now, knowing that 60 people or around 60 people died and 530 were at least injured or whatever, you must be very thankful that you and your niece were able to come out of that and all of what you just said without getting hurt. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Just tell us a little bit about looking back on it. This has got to stick with you and change you a little bit. But of course, you also saw people helping people, and you help people. So there's a little bit of good humanity come out of it. But what's your feeling now that you can look back on it a couple of days later?
Well, there was definitely a lot of humanity that came out of it. There were people who stopped to help others. There were people who were putting themselves in danger to help others. It's just still really so surreal. It's hard for me. It's almost like it was a bad dream at this point, or a bad movie. It's just like, it's one of those things that you only see about on TV, you only hear about, but you don't know anybody who has been through that experience, and it's definitely not something that you ever in a lifetime would imagine would happen to you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't imagine it. I can't. There's no way unless I guess you're in that position that you'd ever think that that's going to happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
But now that it has happened to you, do you think it's going to affect you the next time you go to like a public event?
Absolutely. It's definitely made me lose a little, I don't want to say faith in the human race, but it's definitely made me not trust, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good word to use. I feel like I can't trust like I did before.
All right. Well, I tell you, once again, we're very thankful that you and your niece got out of there okay, and for all the many that did get out of there okay, and our hearts and prayers go out to those who did not. But being originally from here and from the state of Texas, we're just grateful that you got out okay.
Well, thank you very much.